Hey, so this is the Drunkalogs, a podcast about addiction and recovery in which each guest shares their version of how it was, what happened, and how it is now, and then endures a half-hour Q&A at the hands of your host, Nick Morton. My next guest is a very successful actor who you may recognize from her multiple appearances in well-known commercials, television, and film. But perhaps more than anything else, she is a storyteller, and she tells some harrowing stories here. But her ever-present humor and grace are a powerful reminder of the sheer beauty and nobility in the simple act of surviving. Won't you please welcome Dixie Perkinson. You know, everyone has a version of their story to tell. It's just interesting to hear it, I think.
Yeah.
So Dixie Perkinson. I said that right.
You did.
I'm gonna be nervous about it every time.
No. Wait, so you don't know anything about me?
I don't know anything about you. I really don't. And and that, when I started the show, that's the way that's the way a meeting works. You go in and someone tells their story, and then a lot of times they say stuff like, and now I've got this big job. There's 100 people reporting to me, and you're like, what do they do?
Yeah. Okay.
And so, so I sort of I like the idea of just kind of treating it like you're going to tell me your story. And
well, yeah, I mean, I do a lot of actually on-camera commercials.
Right.
And voiceover. And yeah, I have a blog.
Right. What's the blog called?
Eat My Prune.
Eat My Prune. And what's it about?
Just about stories
right.
that we don't normally tell.
Well, let's hear it.
Okay.
Dixie Perkinson, how was it? How long have you been sober?
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Yeah.
So kind of new to the club, relatively
speaking.
speaking.
Although this is my second time.
Right. How long were you sober before?
Just 10 months.
10 months. And how long between?
4 years.
So you were sober for 10 months and you went back out for 4 years and then you've been sober.
And now I'm back, yeah.
Right.
I think for good. Who knows?
Right. Who knows, right?
Who knows?
I always think I'm here for good and then, but
they say one day at a time, but really it's forever.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can't think about that, otherwise you'll kill yourself. So where are you from?
I'm from New Orleans.
New Orleans?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good drinking town.
I know. From New Orleans, where, if you're from there, you're an alcoholic.
Right.
I mean, it's true.
I believe it. I mean, I remember being down there and just that they have margarita drive-thrus. Is it margaritas? No. Is that
daiquiris?
Daiquiri drive-thrus.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you start drinking?
Well, I was just born into a fucked up world. My mother, she was an alcoholic addict and she got murdered when I was a baby. To be honest with you, her body was found at the Gelson's parking lot, just right down the street.
Right down the street.
It used to be Mayfair, though.
Yeah, of course. We call it the Mayfair. I'm still I'm going to the
yeah.
Mayfair. I mean, when we moved in here, it was still the Mayfair.
Yeah.
Although it was owned by Gelson's. Oh, my God.
I know.
I'm so sorry
it's
to
all right.
drag you here. I mean, of all places.
And actually, I spend Mother's Day in the parking lot. It's kind of weird because it's like my, where she's buried. But it's not. She's not buried there.
Right.
She's buried in Louisiana.
What was she doing out here?
She's from New Orleans. She moved out there. She went to AFI.
Right.
And she met my dad here. And then they moved back to New Orleans because her parents were her mother was sick. So she just went to visit her. And then you just kind of get stuck in New Orleans. And so her parents were helping her look for an apartment in New Orleans. And she was driving and, they got carjacked and these two men brutally stabbed her parents.
Oh my God.
But they didn't kill her. And then they jumped out of the car. And then a couple months after that, she got pregnant with me.
So there was a carjacking.
There was a carjacking.
Her parents were killed.
And while she was driving.
In the
confines of a car. These two men brutally stabbed her parents.
Right.
And then...
and let her go? Or they took the car?
No. They just jumped out.
Right. They were like, wow, this shit got more out of hand than we intended.
I
guess.
don't,
Who
you know,
knows?
I don't know. But the thing is that my grandparents were really rich.
Right.
And so they owned a very successful insurance company in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So then my mother got all the money. And then, but yeah, so you know, you don't really survive that kind of trauma.
But you haven't been born yet.
No, but a couple months after that, she gets pregnant with me.
Right.
So, like, I was in her room just marinating with all this trauma and horror.
Sure.
Like, and then, of course, she did do drugs. You know, while
what was her thing?
Well, I think before she witnessed her parents get stabbed to death, it was just cocaine and alcohol. But I think after that, she switched to heroin, and so she. So
you were like in her womb getting heroin, getting some smack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chilling out in there.
Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
I don't know if she. Well, I can't ask her, but she's
right,
dead.
And you would never be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I would
anyway.
know.
It's
Yeah.
not like you're still carrying that in your hair somewhere.
No, but maybe that did affect.
Sure, yeah, no,
you know,
definitely,
I think
definitely.
It did.
I mean, I look at even like as a kid, like I used to always take sips of my parents' booze, and like I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew that feeling from a very young age, and like I definitely believe that played a role in. Some sort of role. I mean, it would have happened anyway, but some sort of role. And, you know, I don't blame anyone for it. I mean, it's not. But when I look at my friends giving their kids sips of booze, I'm like,
yeah.
At least, please not in front of me, you know?
Yeah.
And don't give it to my kid. If you give it to my kid, I'm going to beat you.
Yeah. Good to know.
Sorry. And
so yeah.
So then what happens?
Well, so then
you're
she
born,
moved out here.
Are you born in New Orleans?
I'm born in New Orleans.
Right. And how many months? 14 months later? Or?
14. So she flies out here. She's looking for a new house, and then she gets killed.
How does she get killed?
And they drop her body off in this parking lot.
Do you guys know what happened? I mean,
recently, since sobriety, I have been talking to the detective that worked on my mother's case.
Who was that?
This guy Jackson, Detective Jackson.
I don't know why I'm asking that question, but
I think he was like they made some TV show off of him.
Oh, right.
Because he was the head homicide
right.
Los Angeles detective for like a while.
God, I'm so sorry. I mean, I just am like, wow, it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
It's I know. It's intense.
So she's murdered out here. They leave.
Here.
Do you know where she was murdered or no? I'm sorry.
These
are weird questions to ask. I'm sorry. This feels morbid and weird.
Well, it is. They found her in a car, but the detectives think that she wasn't murdered in the car.
Right.
That somebody just dropped her body.
Yeah, sure.
Scene. So they don't. It's on.
But do you think it was probably like drug related, like some sort of like, you know?
No.
I mean, no, because also like, I mean, super rich people get their drugs from, you know, I mean, I don't know. I guess I bought drugs in all kinds of weird places. Yeah. So who am I? What do I know?
I don't know. No, they have their own theory,
right.
But I guess who knows? But no, but the thing is, then I inherited all the money, but then my dad lived off our inheritance and he spent all of it because my dad never once worked a day in his life.
Right.
And so,
so anyway,
I like grew up without a mother. And everybody, you know, some people didn't have dads, but everyone had a mom. Yeah. Everyone. So, but I didn't know. I just didn't know. But my grandmother moved in. That's why I'm somewhat normal. Right. Because my dad's mother moved in. And
where was she from? Was she a New Orleans person also?
No, Los Angeles.
She was from LA. So
she moved originally from the Midwest.
Right.
But my grandfather was in the business.
Right.
And so
what did he do?
He was the like vice president of CBS or something.
Right. Cool.
But then he lost his job.
You're Hollywood royalty.
No, not even.
You're like, no, please don't say that.
I wish.
I wish
that would
too.
mean I would have money.
Totally.
But no.
So, so your grandmother lives with you in New Orleans and has some sort of. So there's an element. There's like a female presence in your, like a maternal presence there.
My dad, he's well, he's not an alcoholic addict, but he's like a sex addict.
Right.
And so...
And you could see that as a kid? Like, at what point did you recognize that?
Because I would be in the back seat as he would get like a blowjob from a toothless hooker.
Right. Yeah,
as if like somebody...
How old were you? Were you like, what's going on? Like, did you understand what was happening?
One of my first memories was I thought she was tying his shoe.
Right.
I didn't know.
He likes a double knot. He likes a double knot, please.
Yeah. I honestly did not know.
And did you ask him, or you just are like sitting there quiet? Because like as a kid, I think your parents do weird things and you're just like, okay,
no, I didn't ask.
Right.
I didn't ask. And, she was toothless and really, in my mind, ugly.
Yeah, sure. No,
scary looking.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intense.
So, yeah, and he just was always around, and but I did go to this private school. I'm from Old Metairie, which is right outside New Orleans, which is like, my neighborhood. We elected David Duke. Actually.
Right. Oh, good for you guys.
Yeah. People had David Duke signs.
Wow, that's crazy. But
It's not though.
Right. No. I mean, obviously, as we see this whole like blackface thing unfold, I feel like America needs a truth and reconciliation committee the way they had in South Africa, and just like everyone can, get honest about things and then maybe move forward from there.
Well, Marianne Williamson, have you been following her?
No.
She says that there is a huge debt and that we owe money.
Yeah.
African Americans.
Like it's got to be like $1 trillion. How much could it possibly be? I mean, is there any amount of money that? But
normally, like countries, like they do give back.
They do reparations. Yeah, sure.
And we haven't done.
We haven't done anything. So you're in Metairie.
So I'm in Metairie, and it's just it's weird. Like I had a good childhood, but also at the same time, like behind closed doors, it was awful.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get that. Like it's like you're affluent, but your dad is getting blowjobs from toothless hookers.
Yeah.
Like that has got to cause you trauma. Like there's a sense of danger and instability. But I did,
it's
mania.
Something that I didn't know. And but I didn't, my brother, who is 6 years older, he did a lot of drugs.
Where is he now?
He's in New Orleans.
Right.
And I really held off for a while.
Right.
I knew drinking was bad.
Right.
And I didn't know nobody talked about my mother. Like, we didn't have any pictures of her growing up. Like, she was just this myth,
That's hard.
And the only thing I knew was that she was a drug addict, and that when her body was found, they found heroin in her system. Mm-hmm. That's all I knew.
Right.
So, so I held off, and then until until I was a senior in high school, and then I kind of went nuts.
Right.
And
were you at the same school as?
No, I then went to an all-black high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, how'd that happen?
Because I went to a performing arts high school, and you can only go to a public school if you went to the performing arts high school.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. Right. So that must have been an interesting experience.
I loved it so much.
To go from Metairie to, an all-black school.
Because kids were so mean to me growing up. I got bullied.
Right. And that's the thing.
They were so awful.
Rich kids are dicks.
They are. They're such assholes. They were so... I would cry myself to sleep every night.
That's terrible.
I still talk about them to my therapist.
Right.
And then they called me fat when I wasn't even fat. And then I went to this all black high school where their kids would be obese.
Right.
Really like eating McDonald's.
Right.
I'm like,
sure.
I'm not fat.
Right. Like what? How did this occur to me?
Yeah. Like I was just a little like a teensy weensy overweight.
Right.
I think I first got drunk it was a school trip to London.
And were you there as an actor or a singer or what?
Yeah,
sort of everything. You were there to explore yourself
I can't sing.
Right.
Just acting.
Right.
Just acting.
And so you guys went to London to see
trip.
plays and stuff?
Yeah.
Right.
And then, there was a beer machine in the hotel lobby. Hooch beer.
Love that.
And I just got so drunk and I threw up. And it was kind of it was the first time really that I felt like I got like sexually harassed on the streets, and it was a weird feeling. Like I kind of felt like I was a woman.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I was supposed to go this other. I just so desperately wanted to get out of New Orleans. I was supposed to go this another performing arts high school in North Carolina, but I didn't get in. And I told everyone that I was going because my teacher told me that I was just shoo in. And I already asked my aunt and uncle to pay for it, and they said yes. So I'm like, okay, you guys, I'm going to spend my senior year off in North Carolina. I didn't get in, and so I was so depressed that I started doing stand-up in high school. And then
there's nothing worse.
No, and then then that's when I started dating older men.
So you're doing stand-up, and like, how were you doing as a stand-up? Where were you doing it?
Well, back in the day, they only had like 2 places where you could do stand-up. Now I think New Orleans is so different post-Katrina. Right. But before, there wasn't a stand-up scene. Right. There was only this one place. And
what kind of jokes were you telling?
Well, the thing is that my dad actually forced me to do. It's very strange. It's good. It's going to sound awful, but my dad wrote the majority of my high school papers. He didn't want me to do my work. And then although he did maybe like 60% of my papers, he did 100% of my brothers. Right. And with stand-up, he told us to steal from other comedians.
Right, so you would do other people's jokes. Mm-hmm. And would your brother do stand-up also?
Yeah, but then he thought, the most important thing was, stage presence, and this is how you get it. Right. But because of that, the most important thing is finding your own comedic voice.
Of course, but
so it really fucked us up.
Your dad is encouraging you guys to do stand-up? Like, he thinks that's a good idea? Mm-hmm. Why?
I think to live out his own dreams.
Right, his own fantasy. Like, you guys are funny, and you've got, like, I can make you great stand-ups, sort of. Yeah. Venus Williams.
But it was kind of fucked up that he was insistent about doing my homework. I mean, just insistent.
Because he wanted you to succeed?
No, because he didn't want you to waste time doing it. I don't know. But the thing is, then he would steal some stuff. Like, he never wrote stuff on his own. And then I won, like, this. He wrote me a poem, and I submitted it. It was, like, to, like, this Princeton poetry contest. And Toni Morrison was the judge. And I got an honorable mention. And it was just, And
it was a poem that he had written, but he had probably stolen from somebody else. Yeah. Who had he stolen it from? Do you know?
Some, like, Irish poet or something. Yeah, this was all before the internet.
How embarrassing. Have you written about this? Is there a story on your... That's amazing. Yeah. What a great story.
But it really... He thought he was I don't think he thought he was helping. He did a lot of damage.
No, he must have known that what he was doing was wrong. So then it's like...
Well, I don't know. He thought... For my brother, he's a pianist, so he just was like... just practice the piano. I'll do all your homework.
And is your brother still a pianist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I don't talk to him.
Right.
I don't talk to my dad either.
Right.
So yeah, then
So you don't get into the high school, and so you're doing stand-up. And what do you have to go back to the same performing arts school?
Yeah. No, I graduated a year early because I thought I would go to this other. Oh, right. So then I was in this good. High
so at least
school.
You don't have to face everyone and be like, I didn't get in.
No, I did. I had to go to the all-black high school from morning till afternoon. When the thing with this performing arts high school is, like, I would go to my regular high school in the morning, and then from 1 to 6, I would go to my performing arts high school. Right. Now, my senior year, I had to go to the public school. Right. 8 to 3, 4.
And so how was that?
It was okay. I was kind of lost, and yeah, I dated teachers, actually. Right. But in the South, that's normal. Right. But no, I dated my acting teacher, which now I'm horrified by it.
So do you think that's what Roy Moore is saying? Like, that was normal. Mm-hmm. Right?
A lot of people knew. Right. And this acting teacher, like, he was known for liking 15-year-olds. Right. And actually, I was too old for him. Right. And then, yeah, I dated this other guy who was 34, and he bought me a cell phone. This was before everyone had a cell phone, because he didn't want to call my house and speak to my dad. Yeah, sure. And it was just... I confronted him not that long ago because I'm like, that's so fucked up. And he also has a daughter. Right. So I'm like, you were 34 and you dated a high schooler. How old is
his daughter now?
Like, now she's in college. But I think I contacted him when she was my age. Right. I'm like,
That's
just
how old.
so
Right.
fucked
Gross.
up.
Yeah.
But then I would go and I would just get drunk, you know.
Did you drink at school?
No, I didn't drink in school, but I mean, I would be hungover.
Right. Sure.
Sometimes I would, but not really. I just had this crazy after school life where I would go to these bars and I would connect with these older men, and I couldn't connect with anyone in high school because I feel like nobody gets it because I've been through so much,
right.
you
No,
know.
That's fair.
And so
it's
only
also
these
like,
old geezers got it.
You know, there's so much as a high school kid. There's so much. You put up so many barriers, you know, and especially, you know, I feel like we have as adolescents this longing to connect and to help each other understand our world, and yet the culture that we live in doesn't allow that at all. So I can totally see how like you would find, you know, sustenance in older people who could at least like listen and then tell their own stories and stuff.
Yeah, but I just right now I'm like I have a problem because there were 2 high school teachers.
Right.
Like that's wrong. Then to
And were you seeing them at the same time or no?
No.
Right.
No.
And were you in love with those guys?
No, I wasn't in love. I did really like this one teacher, and he was, because, you know, when you're young, you go steady right away.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
It's an adult thing to date multiple people at a time.
Yeah,
and then he told me that he was also dating this other girl. And I was just like, what?
Right. Yeah.
No.
Betrayal.
Yeah.
Right.
And that really hurt.
Totally.
And I'm Facebook friends with him now, actually.
Didn't you guys communicate on Facebook?
No, because now that I've gotten older, I am upset, but
it's the past. I mean, you know.
But would you? Of course, you're married. But would you ever date a high schooler? Like, it just is like, why?
I mean, I don't want to say never.
Oh my God!
No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, to begin with, I it's like not attractive to me on any level, you know. And then I have children, so like the idea of how sort of, you know, just like what they're going through as humans, trying to understand their world. They're so malleable and impressionable, and like I'm always amazed when my kids, you know, when pushed, they demonstrate where their moral center is, and I'm like, oh, they got pretty, I don't know where they got that stuff, but they got the stuff, you know, and that's good. But, you know, that they're still easy prey, you know, and I just like I don't know. I mean, I think like the excitement of intimacy to me as a human is to connect with someone who is my equal or, you know, maybe will challenge me, you know, the idea of like preying on someone, just whatever, that doesn't appeal to me. Like, it doesn't interest me. So, and it's totally corrupt, you know.
It's totally corrupt. But yeah, but I didn't realize that at the time.
Sure. I mean, it seems romantic and interesting and
yeah, and also I felt like
rebellious. You know, I mean, because that was so much of like what I just think that like that's what you're trying to subvert expectations. And I think as a kid, you're so often forced to do these things that you resent, and then you're like, "Fuck you! Look what I'm getting."
But just nobody would have thought that would have happened. You know, I didn't really dress slutty. You know, I don't come across as, you know, right?
No, you're definitely not. You're wearing turquoise rain boots right now. So I mean.
Sluts wear rain boots too.
That's
you
that.
Know what I mean?
Now I know.
Yeah. So anyway, then I just really enjoyed myself. I don't know, before I got drunk, I was so shy and insecure, and then when I would drink, you know.
Would you drink with your teacher boyfriends? Right.
And yeah, I just felt sexy. You know, it was like weird. I felt skinnier and my breasts got bigger when you're drunk. You know, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Like, but And then, I went to school in Chicago.
For college?
For college.
Where'd you go?
DePaul.
Uh-huh.
The theater school
right.
there.
Nice. Was that fun?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Why?
Well, it's freezing.
Right.
There. Like, it's unbearable.
Yeah. Fuck that.
And I also got cut. I got kicked out.
Right. How deep in before you got...
After my second year.
Right. That's brutal.
And, it was pretty... I know, like, I'm like, great. I didn't, I couldn't get into this senior year acting program. And then I got cut from my college program. Am I not supposed to be an actor?
Right.
But I am one of the only remaining actors. Like, those that
right.
graduated from the school,
Totally.
they're like yoga teachers and stuff. Like, they're not
right.
acting.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of them are, but
sure.
honestly, 2.
Yeah.
So, but I would still, like, because that's ingrained in me, is just to go to bars by myself and drink, and then also connect with men.
Right.
I still did that then, and then I got cut, and then I moved out here because my family, I have an aunt and uncle.
Right.
And they, because my dad spent my entire inheritance, and they paid for my college tuition.
Right.
But my dad then took out college loans. Like, he pretended to be my
pretended
brother.
he was paying for your college and was just like, whatever.
Because they knew about my dad. Like, they paid for my brother's full college tuition, and my dad pretended to be him, and then took out all these loans.
Oh my God.
And then even for me, he couldn't really pretend to be me,
right.
But he still took out a loan, and recently I had to pay that off.
Oh, Jesus.
So
no wonder you guys don't talk.
Yeah. I can't. It's too expensive.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. I can't afford it. And then, I moved out here, and I just...
Did you come out here to act?
I came out here to act.
And so where'd you live?
In Los Feliz. My
Right.
aunt and uncle have this guest house.
Right.
That's pretty sweet. Actually, they own 2 homes, and they
Right.
have this, like, really big, and they bought this big house, and it took them 4 years to move into. So
Right.
I lived in that house all by myself.
Oh, wow. How fun.
But then, like, I have the wrong, this isn't also a thing about my life, is I just choose crazy men. And then there's this one guy that wanted to kill me. Like,
Right.
I dated him briefly, and he wanted to kill me. And
was he asking you permission to kill you?
well, no, he's like, no, but he was just like, I want you to
Dixie,
fucking die.
I really,
yeah.
You're so hot, I want to kill you.
No, that would have been different. That would have turned me on.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, all right. I'm not going to let you kill me.
Yeah, but yeah.
And what's your, like, are you drinking? I mean.
Yeah. No, I'm drinking. I'm going to, like, the Rustic and the Drawing Room.
Right.
And.
So kind of divey bars.
Divey bars. I have this cocaine dealer.
The White Horse.
No, not really, because I couldn't really walk there.
Right. Okay. So you're not living that close. You're not close to Western.
No.
You're more that Los Feliz village,
yeah.
right?
I'm like right
Dresden.
there. Exactly.
Right. And you've got a Coke dealer.
I've got a Coke dealer, Hawaiian Mike, and he would, just spoon feed me cocaine, and he would be at this Chinese restaurant, and
the Palace. No.
The Qi Dynasty.
The Qi Dynasty.
Yeah. And then he was so sad. Like, we would go into the bathroom together, and of course he would then like unzip his pants, but he was just so drunk and high, and of course he would and then he would cry. He's like, Dixie, can you touch me? I'm like, no. Then he would just, like, hysterically cry. And then I'm like, it's all right. And then I would hug him. But like, I'm like, I'm not going to touch him. Also, he smelled like a fish tank, because he also his family owned this, like, fish business or something. And so he didn't smell that great. But he was crying. So, and this would be a thing. He would just take off his pants or unzip, not like fully,
right?
But, So, yeah, I mean, that was a dark time in my life. But when I was in that bathroom, I thought, did my mother experience something like this?
Sure.
You know, like my drinking and dragging was like always connected to my mother.
Sure, like sort of living that life that she left unfinished.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. I know. So I would kind of like, because if your parent, I don't know.
And you're out here in the same neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Although at the time I didn't know that her body was found right over
right
here.
Right here at the neighbor.
No, that was crazy when I found that out.
Crazy.
But, and then I got a DUI and I had to go to a program.
Right.
And I liked it, but again, there's something off with me that in the program I was giving rides to this pimp.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, who's also trying to get sober. And I'm like, I cannot be alone in a car with this pimp.
Right. Was he charismatic?
No. No. Well, no, he was aggressive. And
Right.
Of course, he unzipped his pants.
Right.
It seems it's
So you're sort of like
thing out, but a lot of men just take out their dicks.
Yeah, no,
all the time.
We're learning about that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot in this
decade.
I've
had it so many times, and not just with like coke dealers.
Right.
Just so I'm like, this is crazy. Here I am, like, and this pimp just, and he did serious jail time afterwards.
Sure.
Know? I'm like, this is kind of wrong, and then I picked I just was having a bad experience. And then I started dating a pothead at the time.
Right.
He was kind of a successful pothead. They exist.
No,
somehow.
I know. Especially now. I mean, now that like pot's completely
Yeah.
legal, there's all kinds of high functioning potheads
I know.
in the world.
But they're not, he's not successful in relationships, just
Right.
in his career.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, fuck this. And then I started drinking and I smoked pot with him. And then I'm like, you know what?
Oh, so that's how you fell off the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Did you meet him? How'd you meet him?
He was my improv teacher.
Oh,
I have a
interesting.
thing for teachers. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, teachers are, I don't know, there's teachers, I mean, I've taken some, stand-up classes and improv classes, and like, there is that like need to please the teacher. Like, I feel it, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Am I like a 14-year-old? Like, why do I give a shit what this guy thinks of me?
Yeah.
You know?
But maybe it has something to do with your father.
It's funny. My father and I have a really healthy relationship. Now, that's not to say that my father and I haven't had things that maybe I should be resentful for, and like no, and so I don't know where that need to like, I don't know. I mean,
and maybe it's ingrained in us. I don't know. For me, I also sexualize it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's normal too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're dating your improv teacher.
So dating my improv teacher, and then I'm out, and then I'm just really angry with the program, and just think they're a bunch of, I don't know. I felt like the program owed me this amends. You know what I mean? I don't know. For some reason, I'm like,
yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've had a very lucky, happy relationship with my recovery program. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's also like when you go in and like, are you ready for it? Like, is it what you need? Like, maybe you need something else, or I don't know.
Well, no, I'm just looking at this one thing. I mean, it's a beautiful program. It was just like, but I don't like 3 people in it.
Right.
Just 3
yeah,
people.
Right, totally.
Other than that, it's amazing.
Right.
But I'm just focusing in on like, oh, well, this asshole, that pervert,
Right.
Then they
and they don't
the whole thing.
Right, they don't represent the whole thing. But sometimes it's hard not to see it that way.
No, I'm just focusing on this. Yeah.
And so after 10 months sober, you relapse with your pothead boyfriend, and you stay out for 4 years.
I stay out for 4 years.
And what's your life like during those 4 years?
A lot. When I first started, in my 20s, like bad things happened. I got a DUI. I hit my head and was ICU for 3 days. This guy was trying to give me. I think I even maybe have gotten like roofied or something.
Right.
I don't know. It was very strange. And like all these bad things started happening, but then afterwards, bad things didn't happen. But it was just, I was just so depressed. Like
Why? Because you feel you've like let yourself down?
Well,
or
I
that
knew,
you're not,
like, deep down, I knew that I was an alcoholic. And deep down, I knew that, like, I go to such dark places when I drink, you know?
Yeah.
And I've just felt like this is my fate. Like, and I would drink so dangerously. Like, I would hop into anybody's car. Like, I would be like,
you would do crazy shit.
I would do crazy shit, or crazy shit would have happened to me. Just like my mother. Like, just somebody would have done something.
Right, you're just like tempting fate, playing with fire every time.
But I would kind of wanted that.
But I mean, I felt that. I mean, I look back on like my drug use, and one of the things that like I've remembered about it is that every time I did cocaine, I was like, I could die, you know? Really? And then sometimes you would be so high that you'd be like, I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. And yet you go back to it. And like, you know, and I definitely see that in my sober life. Like I feel that like that need for excitement and danger and, you know, and like I try to find it through artistic stuff. But like going up on stage and doing crazy shit in stand-up, like it gets me off, definitely. It satisfies that need to be on the edge.
Yeah. But it's weird. Like, I do have a death wish. You know? I do.
Right. Yeah, sure. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I have a death wish, and I just can't access it. So then, and then I had this best friend, and we were both in the program for a year, and then we both talked shit about it. But we were also, like, writing partners, but we would have these no drinking pacts.
Right.
Where like, okay, we're not going to drink for 4 months until we finish this
script,
film, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
But then we would get drunk.
Right.
And she was from England. I'm from New Orleans. We both have a very high tolerance.
Come from big drinking cultures. Yeah.
But the thing is that drinking did something different to me. Like we drank the same amount, but it did something different to my soul. You know? It's like I couldn't recover the same. It was very strange. Like it really wasn't about the amount. It was just like
what it did to you emotionally.
Yeah. And then my last drink was so lame. I was sexually frustrated, and I FaceTimed the Biggest Loser. I'm like, hey, can you just cheer me on as I try to masturbate?
Right.
And then I'm like, I can't believe what has my life come down to. Also, I turned 32, and that was the age my mother was when she got killed.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to end up like her, you know? And then my best friend was like, why don't you go back to that program, you know, just so you could stop drinking for a little bit. Because I couldn't get out of that, you know, when you're in that cycle, it's just so hard to get out. And then I'm like, all right, I'll go just for like a little bit. I just want to stop drinking for a month.
Right.
And then I went back and I just felt like I'm like, I need to be here.
What was that last drink? What did you have?
No, like I drink wine.
Just FaceTiming with that dude.
Yeah.
And that was like,
and
you like close the computer and you're like, oh God.
No. And
or you wake up the next morning.
I didn't even climax.
You didn't even get off.
No. And this guy, he was so like, he always wanted to sleep with me, but then he stopped following me on Instagram because he thought I posted too many gym selfies. I'm like, dude, if you're not going to be supportive about my workout routine,
we cannot be together.
There's no way that I'm going to sleep with you. Like,
why else am I doing this if not to get laid? Come on.
Oh my God, you're not supportive of... It really affected me.
And so did you go to... When did you decide like I'm going to go back to meetings like the next day?
No, because my friend, you know, I guess I care so much what other people think.
Sure.
My friend was like, why don't you go? I'm like, oh, and then I got her like permission or something. And then like, all right. But I was kind of embarrassed because I'm like, well, I run into the same people.
Sure. Yeah. That's hard. That's gotta be hard.
And I don't like them, right?
Right.
They're like,
and then they're going to judge me because I've been out for 4 years.
But, and then I went back and it wasn't like that at all. And I just was so sad and angry.
What was the first meeting you went to? Where was it?
It was in Los Feliz. It was a women's meeting, and I just did not want to be seen. Like I could not get a chip or anything like that.
Right.
And then a couple other meetings, like this woman recognized me from earlier, and she's like, Dixie, why don't you get a welcome chip? And then, after that, I'm like, all right, I think
you're back in, like, I've come out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were really nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how, like, you put all this, like, anxiety into declaring, just like, I don't know, sometimes I felt like pressured into like doing it the way they wanted you to do it, which was to introduce yourself and acknowledge you're a newcomer or whatever it is. And like, sometimes I found that off-putting, but I just did it my way and it was fine. Like nobody cared that I was not going to do it their way. Like it's not like people are like, you need to take a welcome chip. It's like, it's like, hey, if you don't want to take one, don't take one.
Yeah.
Just, the only, what did they say? The only barrier to entry or something, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. You don't even have to stop drinking. You just have to want to stop drinking.
I know, but there's all these rules, But my the first person that helped me.
Right. Yeah.
She's like, just, eat as much as you want, smoke as many cigarettes as much as you want, fuck as much as you want, just don't drink or use
just
no
don't
matter
drink
what.
Or use, yeah.
And like, I needed that. But yeah, also it was hard for me to admit that I was an alcoholic because I'm like, why would I admit to being an alcoholic when the alcoholics in my life they've caused me so much pain?
Right.
Like my mother, my brother, my dad, he's an
Is your
addict.
brother recovered or no?
No, he takes dirty chips.
Right. Oh, wow.
Because he just, also we were born and raised, like my dad, he was religious about being an atheist.
Right.
And in the South, he just would call like religious people dumb and awful people. And in the South, they kind of were, you know?
Yeah.
But, and so I was kind of brainwashed to think that how could there be a God when I was born in such a fucked up family?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Sure. Right.
Like,
if there's anyone who's got evidence there's no God, it's you.
Or like people say they see God in the ocean, but do they see God in the tsunami that kills thousands of people?
Sure.
Like, where's that God,
It's an angry God.
An angry God. Or just like how can you justify so many things in this life?
Sure.
But
and how have you come to?
Well, at first I'm like at first I started like praying to my grandmother. She died when I was 16, but she was like my higher power. Like she just loved me unconditionally.
Right.
And like instead of saying, "Oh Jesus," I would say, "Okay, grandma."
Right.
And I felt like this wash of ease.
Totally.
Or even like I got LASIK. And
right.
I'm so nervous. I'm like, and then, I'm like, grandma, and it's like saying Jesus Christ, Jesus,
Yeah.
And it really worked. Now I do think that there is a higher power and that shit happens, but because there needs to be, there like needs to be conflict in our lives. And I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Right. And so how has your sobriety been? When's your sobriety date?
April 13th,
So coming up on 5 years, yes? 4 years. 4. Right.
Yeah. Coming up. It's okay. I have not, it's been a crazy journey because, I've had to deal with so many things, and like I'm in therapy. My therapist is like, you need to grieve. You need to grieve over your mother.
Sure.
You need to grieve over your grandmother. You need to grieve of having a shit dad.
Yeah.
My
sponsor.
My sponsor. Okay, I can say that. My sponsor was like, maybe are you in self-pity? Like, what's the difference between grieving and being in self-pity? You know what I mean? And sometimes like we have to just be sad and we can't action our way out of feelings. Like when you're feeling sad, it's just ingrained in you. You're like, oh my God, I have to call a newcomer. I have to make a phone call. I have to be of service. I have to blah, 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 blah. But like really, you kind of just have to sit there and grieve. But how do you grieve without like drinking? Like I'm like, I don't know how to grieve over my mother. Like, do I need to get an Airbnb and be like sad for the weekend? You know what I mean? Like,
I think that there's this weird thing with grief where, eventually, I don't know. I mean, I went into therapy for a year to deal with some grief because I'd never felt anything like that. It just felt unfathomable to me and just totally consuming, and yet had me completely alive in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. And I never made sense of it. I just came to understand that, like, I would just always carry that with me somewhere, A loss, I feel, is like, it's irreconcilable end. It's an end that you will never make sense of. And you just have to accept that on some level. I don't know.
Yeah. But feelings are so hard, to sit with them. Like for so long, I've been, okay, if a feeling comes up, I want to eat, I want to have sex, I want to drink, I want to do drugs, I want to be on my phone, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. And distract yourself from the horror of feelings.
From, like, just this uncomfortable feeling, and really, like, although the first year I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to be by myself.
Sure.
I needed to be in a relationship, actually. But then, after a while, you're like, okay, no, you have to be by yourself, and you have to deal with these things.
And how do you deal with it now?
Well, I stopped having sex with strangers.
Right.
Or
do you have a boyfriend or anything?
No. And the last guy I dated, he was a sociopath, and he was a little too similar to my dad. That it kind of scared me, and I was feeling a little desperate because I really want to be a mother.
Right.
But I'm like, I need to freeze my eggs.
Right.
Because I can't.
You take some authorship of the whole thing, like own it a bit, right?
Oh, it's like I need, because I was being desperate, and the worst thing is to, be in a relationship with a toxic person. I'm just trying to like change all these patterns in my life.
So how long has it been since you've had a relationship?
Almost a year.
Almost a year, right?
Which is, unheard of.
Right.
For me.
Yeah,
like,
that's wild.
Huh. It was like cost over $40,000 because I had to do 3 rounds and I gained 20 pounds and it was awful. My insurance did not cover it.
Right. But you've
glad.
got him. You've got him somewhere.
I got him. I'm glad I did it. I'm 35, so it's just like,
that's great.
I've got some time to pick the right person who's not like, my
or
dad.
Whatever, or don't.
Or don't.
But
I want to.
It's definitely. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard even with someone else in your life.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it's like on your own,
Yeah, no, I'm hoping. I'm looking for my soulmate sperm.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
He's out there. Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good.
Definitely.
Good,
definitely.
Thanks.
How has your career been affected by your sobriety?
Well, I feel in a way like I want to change careers.
Right. Interesting. What do you think you want to do?
Well, I want to write. I'm writing a book.
Yeah,
I feel like for so long I've been so ashamed of like my story.
Right.
And then because I'm like, oh, people aren't going to want me. They're not going to love me. They're going to think I'm weird. They're going to think I'm fucked up. And then when you're in recovery, you share stuff and you're like, oh, people love me more because of this.
Totally.
So I'm like, I want to do this now in the real world. It's like, but it's so hard to be seen and heard in the real world because people are still like, oh my God, that happened, I
mean, it does feel to me like you have the workings of a really great movie here. Mm-hmm. I can see the scenes and like just, there's so many like sort of ironic things and like serendipitous things and sort of like the best intentions leading to the worst outcomes. I mean, I feel like there's so much stuff that good drama and humor is made from,
Yeah.
Like a lot of this stuff feels like, I mean, it feels tragic, but then it also is really funny too. And like, I think that there's definitely like there's great stuff here. I mean, it's, if nothing else, an amazing collection of short stories.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, I am a commercial actor. So when I'm worried, I'm like, will I not be able to sell like Go-Gurt because I write about sex and murder too much? You know what I mean?
I think you cannot worry about that. Like you have to just.
But I need to make money, and that's how.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've been very
I understand
successful that way.
Yeah, no, but like, I mean, no one's going to be like, no one's going to get confused. Be like, I don't want to buy my yogurt from the award-winning short story writer. I think they're different things. And I think the people who, I mean, like, whoever sees a commercial, like, those people aren't reading.
Well, this ad agent, they're
Oh, right, the people in charge.
The people in charge are.
Yeah, they're dialed in.
But that's the thing is I'm like, okay, maybe I want to be more of a writer, not so much an actor. And just, I'm like, I feel like that's what I really want to do.
Yeah. That seems like where you belong. But I mean, you can still, I think that's, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can keep, you know, making money as an actor and then, you know, write on the side.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, it's obviously what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing.
It's what you're doing. It's funny, like my wife was asking me recently, like, I was, you know, I do a lot of fun things in my life. I've got a good job and like I have a lot of creative projects and like, but I still like, you know, I don't have a lot of financial success. And she's like, well, what would success look like for you? And I'm like, you know, I'd be producing television and I'd be, you know, producing movies and I'd be doing stand up and I'd be writing TV. And she's like, but you're doing all those things. And, you know, sometimes I forget that like, just because, you know, Hollywood hasn't acknowledged my genius doesn't diminish from my own enjoyment of doing the things I'm doing. If anything, I'm probably having more fun in my obscurity than I would in, you know, fame. Well, that's cool. I think that's the place to end. I'm glad we hit that last beat because that's a nice little that sort of segue into sort of like, you know, the sort of challenges of the unknown. And, you know, I think was actually weirdly Shawn Michael, when I sat down with him, what intrigued me initially about his story was he was at this crossroads in his life and was trying to decide, you know, between, you know, his sort of artistic ambitions and his, you know, a career path, and like having to make those choices is really challenging. And like, I feel like, you know, in the sort of world of recovery where there is some support for you to chase your dreams, you know, and there is a community that can support you in the faith that endeavor requires, gives you the freedom to actually do it. And like, I think that is something that like, you know, that I have embraced in recovery, is this idea that like, yeah, just like fucking try it. Just keep doing the thing that you want to do. And like, by showing up, I mean, like, will you succeed? I don't know. But I've definitely, in these 7 years, I've had certainly a much more satisfying creative life than I ever had in the 20 years that preceded it. So, Dixie, thank you so much for coming in. I enjoyed every fucking second of that.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Drunkalogs cover art is designed and created by John DeMinil, and the Drunkalogs theme song is composed and performed by Stephen Stout. I am Nick Moore.